Hi, my name is Amanda David. I am one of the members of the TAC department here at CLIU 21. If you're here, you are joining us for our final installment of the Literacy Love series. So thank you for popping in. Today, we're going to be touching upon supporting struggling readers. Now, this is a very vast and broad topic. So at this point, we're just going to be scratching the surface as far as how we can help our struggling readers regardless of grade level. I love this quote by Kate Camillo. Reading should not be presented to children as a chore or duty. It should be offered to them as a precious gift. When we have our struggling readers, reading is not a gift to them, is it? It is something they dread. It's something that they hate. And key that we intervene as early as possible to ensure that that is not the long-lasting effect that we have on our students. When we look at reading, there are 5 areas of reading. We have phonemic awareness, we have phonics, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, and spelling. And we're going to be touching upon each of these today. The first one being phonemic awareness. And this is something that we hear all the time, especially in elementary, not so much in secondary, but it's important across the board. When we're talking about phonemic awareness, it is an understanding that words are made up of individual sounds called phonemes. So on the screen here, I have some examples. If you're blending the sounds b, a, t, that's the word bat. Segmenting the word pen, you would segment that as p, n, pen. Isolating the f sound in fin, and substituting sounds, and especially for elementary, these are things that we often do just in fun. I know when I was in the classroom, we would do this too. You would change the in fun and make it an a to make it fan. You could also delete sounds. So delete the first sound in bin becomes in. It has nothing to do with the concept of print. So we are not looking at, here's the letter A, it says a. We are just talking about the sound. It allows students to manipulate sounds to make words. So app, map. And we can replace the with a t and make it app, tap. When we are talking about strategies for struggling readers, modeling is so essential. Being able to be that good model for your students, one of the big things with that is making sure that you are saying the letter sounds correctly. There are oftentimes errors that are unintentionally made when we are adding a schwa to the end of some of our sounds. So instead of saying for the letter B, teachers will say buh. And what ends up happening is that that you throw in the end is that schwa. And then when students go to apply that sound when they're trying to blend, they're now adding the schwa to the word, and that does affect them being able to read fluently down the road. Using Alconin boxes, which if you're not sure what those are, there is a picture on the screen. So you are breaking up each individual sound within the boxes and you touch them and blend. Using flashcards to delete and replace sounds. I used index cards. So writing all the letters of the alphabet and then some on index cards and having the student manipulate the cards and making different sounds. So if we have the word cat and we take away the k sound, what do we have now? At. Now put a p in its place. Now what word do we have? Hat. Sound synthesis games. It starts with L and ends with ite. Put it together, it says light. Okay? Put these sounds together to make a word. Fish. Fish. Oh, I skipped one, I apologize. having explicit, systematic phonemic awareness instruction. One such as Haggerty is a great example, and that training is available through special programs here at the IU if you're interested. Haggerty is a really quick daily procedure as a part of your instruction, and I was actually using some of the strategies. My daughter at home is in a Haggerty classroom, has been for 2 years, and I personally have seen a huge difference in her ability to read with having Haggerty in her classroom. So doing something explicit such as that is incredibly helpful to gain phonemic awareness in all of our students. Next one is phonics, which is what oftentimes gets mixed up with phonemic awareness. When we're looking at phonics, we're looking at the relationship between sounds and letters. And that is understanding that phonics allows students to decode. And we need to have phonemic awareness in order to be successful with phonics. And I have an example of an activity there, as well as a poster with 42 main sounds that we use in English. For strategies, there are several and they're on the screen. Some of them are kind of redundant with phonemic awareness, but there is such a close correlation that that's why you see that redundancy. The biggest thing is modeling, being a good example for your students, showing them I do, we do, you do. Having a letter sound hunt. Find something that makes the S sound. This is something that you can do outside on the playground when you're transitioning from one activity to another, things of that nature. It doesn't have to be formal. Using word boxes again. Word family study, which also can help students with their phonics. And of course, if you're having students who are struggling, having explicit research-based phonics intervention, such as SRA reading mastery. Fluency. That is the ability to read with speed, accuracy, and expression. So basically you should be reading as if you're talking, right? So it's that bridge between word recognition and comprehension. And students should have strong recognition in order to take on comprehension. When we're talking about fluency, there are some things you can do to support your student to gain fluency. First and foremost, you need to make sure that if you have a student who is struggling with fluency, you need to go back a little bit. Make sure that your student does not have an issue with phonemic awareness or phonics, because typically if they're having an issue with a higher order skill, there's a good chance that there's some sort of deficit at an earlier skill, such as phonemic awareness or phonics. When we are doing fluency, modeling fluent reading with your students. So just doing a read aloud, or you reading from the anthology aloud, what have you. Giving specific feedback. So when you are listening to your student read, giving specific feedback on what errors they made or things that they did really well when it came to their reading. Practice reading, so being able to read one passage multiple times before having that, read aloud opportunity in front of the class, for example. As well as listening to a recording of whatever text is going to be read. That way you have a model other than yourself for your students. Vocabulary. So again, being able to have students understand their vocabulary is going to increase their understanding of the text that they're reading. This enhances during and after reading the text. And in tandem with the reading, it's going to impact their writing ability, as well as their complexity of writing. Again, prior to tackling vocabulary, please be sure that there isn't an issue with phonemic awareness or phonics, and frankly, ensuring that English is a proficient language for them as well. Some strategies. So modeling, model the use of rich vocabulary. AIM is another strategy. This was one that I used in the classroom. So when you are doing explicit vocabulary instruction, having a grid basically of what's on the screen, and the keyword, the vocabulary word is democracy. The definition or the information is written in by the student, and then a memory cue. So the student then draws in color a memory cue to help them remember the definition. So this student, the word was democracy, and they used a voting box, collection box, as their memory cue. We also have links, which is similar to KIM. What I like about links is that it also uses background knowledge to help students. The vocabulary word. So you'll see that there is a term as well as a reminding word. So it might be for this student for frigid, it has the same beginning sound as freezing, okay? Then she has a story about the word frigid. The frigid boy was freezing. Then there is a picture. I strongly recommend using color because that does help tag in the brain a little stronger than black and white. And then lastly is the definition. Frigid means cold. Looking at word relationships such as synonyms and antonyms are also very helpful when you're helping students acquire vocabulary. Direct systematic instruction is the best route you can go, as well as teaching Greek and Latin roots, prefixes, suffixes in context. So that's also incredibly helpful, teaching your vocabulary within the context. For comprehension. Comprehension, we know, is constructing meaning from text that has been read. This allows students to be active and purposeful readers, whether it's for pleasure or for academics. If students can read the words but not comprehend what is being read, that isn't truly reading. Essentially, that's just word calling. What do good readers do? So there are several things that a good reader can do or should do. They draw on prior knowledge. They draw inferences, they self-monitor, they form mental images, and summarize and retell. When we're talking about prior knowledge, it helps them understand what they are reading. When we're drawing inferences, we're reading between the lines, essentially, and drawing inferences about a wide range of hidden meanings, such as what the characters are thinking or what may happen next. Self-monitoring is their understanding, adjusting their speed to fit the difficulty of the text that they're tackling, as well as addressing any comprehension questions they may have. They're essentially checking their understanding themselves. Forming mental pictures. So as they read, they're envisioning what's happening in the story because they understand what's being read. And then the last one, summarize and retell. So students will determine what is important and put into their own words by retelling. And this allows students to identify the main ideas, connect themes, weed out unnecessary information, and recall. When we are talking about strategies, again, go back, make sure that there isn't some underlying issue. A lot of the time when we're looking at students who just can't comprehend, it's actually because there's some other underlying issue. So please make sure that that has been weeded out first. Having explicit intensive instruction. So teaching skills with familiar text that they hear the teacher read aloud, and then later with the text they read independently at their own level. Doing think alouds and modeling those specific skills and following that I do, we do, you do. Lastly, we have spelling. So here's what we know about spelling, a few things. So first and foremost, reading and spelling are linked. Imagine that. Spelling and reading skills rely on similar skills, such as phonemic awareness and phonics. That also ties into sight word recognition. It relies on the ability to map letters and letter combinations to sound out. So when students have an understanding of sight words, they're creating additional connections to make those sounds and to recognize more words and apply them to other unknown words. And lastly, it ties into their writing ability. So writers who have to really think through how to spell, they're using up all of their cognitive energy to do that. So they're going to be incapable of writing complex composition. So when we have students who are laboriously trying to spell whatever they're trying to write, there's going to be a breakdown in the complexity of their writing. When it comes to struggling spellers, again, you need to have a strong understanding of phonics. If they do not understand phonics, they're going to struggle with spelling. So please be sure that that is not a deficit that they're having. Explicit instruction is key. So looking at Reading Rockets, which is one of the leaders in reading instruction, their recommendation is either 30 minutes per week, 3 times per week, or daily for 15 minutes. Word sorting is a great strategy. Some spelling programs have that embedded within, others do not. This can be incredibly easy. Throwing on index cards, words that begin with CH and words that end in TCH, and having students read and sort where they belong so that they can understand how that spelling pattern works. Finding word relatives to help with unknown words. So if a student doesn't know the word colonist, but they know the word colony, that might allow them to kind of pull together how to spell it and have an understanding of what the word is. Word hunting games, so just having words pasted around the room, saying the word, trying to find them. And lastly, students need to be able to decode a word in order to spell it. So if they cannot decode the word cat, they are probably not going to be able to spell the word cat. So be mindful that if your spelling word list or what have you is well above what they're able to read, there's a good chance they're not going to be able to spell that word. A quick recap, just to touch upon it. Typically, we're not looking at just one problem when we have a struggling reader. Usually it works in tandem with some other issue. Make sure that you are digging deep and trying to figure out what those concerns are. One strategy is not going to be a quick fix. Typically, you're going to need to have more than one thing. And again, I cannot emphasize enough, direct explicit instruction is the best intervention that you can have to support your struggling students. And you as professionals brushing up on your own professional development like you are today. This is just a quick training, a quick touch on struggling readers, but there are so many things available out there that you could utilize. 2 that I wanted to mention is that letters. Letters is a training that we offer here at the IU. That is the science of reading. Incredibly insightful on how we can support our students who struggle to read, as well as Patten. Patten oftentimes will offer trainings, and now it's at a distance, as far as how to support our struggling students. I also wanted to share some recommended websites. So I mentioned Reading Rockets already. Strongly recommend that. They have great articles, great practical suggestions on how you can support your students. And they also have a Reading 101 course. So it's a free course. You just go in. I was clicking through it myself. And there are pre-tests, there are videos, post-tests, things of that nature. And it really gives you some great insight on how we can support our students who struggle in reading. So I strongly encourage you to navigate through that. And then I also included for upper grade levels, ASCD had a pretty interesting article on literacy strategies in grades 4 through 12. So be sure to check those out. Take a picture of the screen if you'd like. Google, do what you need to do. Wanted to thank you so much for taking the time out of your crazy schedule to chat, and not really chat, but at least watch and learn a little bit on how you can support your students. I hope you were able to pull something out of this. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My information is on the screen, and be sure to stay tuned for what CNI, Curriculum and Instruction, will be coming out with next as far as supporting you as well as your students. Take care.